She walked into a billionaire's dinner party expecting celebration. But he humiliated her in front of everyone by pushing her into the pool. One wrong move could have cost her everything: her company, her technology, and her future. But she didn't back down. Tonight, she fights back, cancels a $2 billion deal, and shows that no one can control her. The sunset over Malibu was soft and golden. The ocean breeze moved gently through the tall glass windows of the Horizon Estate, the most expensive cliffside mansion in the area. It belonged to Charles Whitford, a billionaire investor known across Wall Street for being powerful, unpredictable, and always hungry for attention. Ava Johnson stepped out of her black SUV and looked at the mansion with a calm breath. She was a black woman in her mid-30s, sharp-minded, confident, and respected in the tech world. Her company, Novalink Systems, had developed a global communication AI that was weeks away from launching. A $2 billion partnership deal between her company and Whitford Global was almost finalized. Tonight was supposed to be a simple dinner party to celebrate the upcoming contract. Ava wore a navy blue jumpsuit and carried a small leather folder with the deal notes. She rarely attended social events, but Charles insisted that this party would be good for both sides. As she walked toward the entrance, voices, music, and laughter floated from inside the mansion. The security guard scanned her invite and opened the door. The interior glowed with warm yellow lights and expensive art pieces. Wealthy guests moved around with wine glasses in their hands. Some recognized Ava and smiled. Others whispered, already curious about the woman. Behind the fastest-growing tech company in the country, she kept her posture steady. She had worked for everything she owned, starting as a young coder from a small apartment in Detroit. This partnership was supposed to bring her company into its next era. She did not trust Charles completely, but she trusted the contract and the numbers. A server walked up to her. "Welcome, Miss Johnson. Mr. Whitford will be joining shortly. Can I offer you water or juice?" "Water, please," Ava replied. As she took the glass, her eyes scanned the crowd. She noticed a few board members from other companies, several influencers, and some new faces she had never seen. Charles was not visible anywhere yet, which was strange. He loved being the center of attention. Ava walked toward the balcony overlooking the infinity pool. The ocean was calm. The sky was deepening to a soft purple. She took a sip of water and allowed herself one silent moment. Today represented years of hard work. One more signature and the deal would be done. Behind her, footsteps approached. A voice said her name. "Ava Johnson, you finally made it." She turned. Charles Whitford stood there with a wide smile, but something about his expression felt forced. He was in his mid-50s, tall, sharply dressed, and known for controlling every room he walked into. Ava nodded politely. "Good evening, Charles. I am looking forward to discussing the final terms." He waved his hand casually. "Relax, tonight is just fun. Business can wait." Ava kept her voice steady. "Business is why I am here." Charles raised an eyebrow. "Then let's make sure this night goes smoothly. After all, $2 billion is on the line." Ava held her folder a little tighter. She reminded herself to stay alert. She had a strange feeling, but she pushed it aside. The party had just begun, and she had no idea that everything in her life was about to change. Ava followed Charles into the main dining hall. A long glass table stretched across the room, glowing under the chandelier. 12 seats, all occupied by wealthy guests, executives, advisors, and a few people who looked like they were there only to show off their money. Every plate, every fork, every napkin looked like it had been arranged by a perfectionist. Charles tapped his glass. "Everyone, our special guest is here. Ava Johnson, the genius who is about to change the communication world." A few guests clapped. Others nodded politely. Ava smiled back, but she could feel a strange tension under the surface, like everyone was watching her a little too closely. Ava sat near the center. Charles intentionally took the head seat, right where he could see every person and every reaction. He had always liked control. The servers brought out plates of food: salmon, vegetables, pasta, and expensive sauces Ava did not recognize. As the guests began eating, conversations filled the room. Some spoke about stocks, others talked about their vacations. But several of them kept shifting their attention toward Ava, whispering quietly. A woman sitting next to her leaned in. "Everyone is talking about your $2 billion deal. Must feel amazing." Ava kept her tone calm. "It feels earned." The woman smiled awkwardly. Charles is known for big partnerships, but he is also known for changing his mind if he gets bored. Ava paused. Good thing this partnership is based on data. Before the woman could reply, Charles raised his glass. A toast to bold ideas and bigger risks. Ava lifted her glass, but she noticed something. Charles was not looking at the table. He was staring at her like he was measuring something. Testing something. A man across the table shouted, "Charles, when is the pool event? You promised some fun tonight." Several guests chuckled. Charles smirked. "Patience, we will get there." Ava frowned slightly. "Pool event?" Charles waved it off. A small tradition. Nothing serious. But Ava felt the uneasiness inside her rise again. She glanced around the room. The guests seemed entertained by the secret, like they were all in on something she was not aware of. She took a quiet breath and sat straighter in her chair. This night was supposed to be professional. But something about the energy did not feel professional at all. As the plates were cleared, Charles stood. "All right, everyone, follow me. The real show is by the pool." The guests erupted with excitement and began moving toward the sliding glass doors. Ava rose slowly. Something was not right. She could feel it. The night air outside was colder than before. The pool shimmered under the lights. The ocean waves crashed softly below the cliff. Guests formed a circle around the water, waiting, and Ava, standing near the edge, had no idea that the next 10 minutes would destroy the entire partnership. The guests gathered around the glowing blue pool. Music played softly from hidden speakers. Charles stepped to the center of the crowd, holding a glass of wine, smiling like he was the star of a show. Ava stood a few steps behind him. Her instincts were sharp now. Every sound, every movement around her felt heavier and more deliberate. Charles lifted his arms. "Before we celebrate this new partnership, I want to bring back an old Horizon Estate tradition, a test of trust." The crowd cheered like they had been waiting for this. Ava narrowed her eyes. "Trust test?" Charles turned toward her. "Ava, come stand by the pool." The guests shifted, making space. Their faces were lit with amusement. Ava could tell many of them knew exactly what was about to happen. She stepped forward slowly. "What kind of trust test?" Charles grinned. "Simple. Just stand right there, close to the edge, and trust us." Ava looked at his smile. Then she looked at the crowd. No one seemed concerned. No one seemed confused. It was entertainment to them. Ava exhaled, steady and controlled. "Charles, I came here for business, not games." Charles took a sip of wine. "Relax, Ava. It is harmless. Just tradition." A man behind her whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Come on, she is scared." Another chuckled. "Maybe she does not want to ruin the fancy jumpsuit." The laughter spread. Ava felt heat rise in her chest, but she kept her face calm. She stepped closer to the pool edge, only enough to remove the crowd's pressure. "Fine. What now?" Charles walked up behind her. "Just stand still." Ava heard his footsteps. They were too close. She started to turn her head, but it was too late. Two hands shoved her hard from behind. Her body flew forward. A shock of cold water swallowed her as she plunged under the surface. The pool lights blurred. Her ears rang. Her breath cut off. She fought to swim up. When she reached the surface, gasping for air, she heard the sound above her. Laughter. Dozens of people laughing, clapping, pointing. Charles stood at the edge, smiling. "It is just a joke. Lighten up." Ava pushed her wet hair back, trembling from cold and anger. "You pushed me." Charles shrugged. "A harmless push. You passed the trust test." Ava stared at him, her jaw tight. "This is not trust. This is disrespect." The crowd went silent for a moment. Some guests exchanged glances, but Charles rolled his eyes. "Come on, Ava, do not make a scene." Nobody got hurt. Ava climbed out of the pool. Her clothes clung to her skin. She looked at every guest, then at Charles. Something inside her shifted. A line, a boundary, a truth she could no longer ignore. Her voice was steady but cold. "Charles, tomorrow morning you will receive a notice. The partnership is canceled." The entire crowd froze. Charles laughed once, disbelieving. "Canceled? Over this?" Ava stepped forward. "Over this. Over the way you treat people. Over the way you treat me." She walked past him, water dripping as she moved toward the exit. Behind her, murmurs rose. Shock, surprise, fear. Charles finally shouted, "You are making a mistake, Ava. A huge mistake." Ava did not turn back. The mistake would be staying connected to a man like you. She pushed through the doors, leaving the party in stunned silence. And as she walked away from the mansion, soaked and shivering, Ava knew one thing. This was not just the end of a deal. It was the beginning of a storm. Ava drove down the dark Malibu road with her clothes still wet and her heart pounding. The cold water on her skin had nothing on the cold anger running through her chest. She tightened her grip on the steering wheel. Her phone began vibrating in the cup holder. Unknown number. She ignored it. It rang again. She picked it up without speaking. A slow voice came through. Ava, it is Charles. She kept her tone flat. I do not want to talk to you. He exhaled sharply. You embarrassed me in front of my guests. You should think carefully before you act rashly. Ava's jaw tightened. You pushed me into a pool in front of your guests. You humiliated me. The partnership is over. Charles spoke again, but his voice shifted. It was lower, more controlled. You do not walk away from a $2 billion deal like it is nothing. Ava answered firmly. Watch me. She hung up. Her phone vibrated again with a message. You are making the wrong choice. She ignored it. Another message came. You will regret this. Ava felt a chill she did not want to admit. She locked her phone and focused on the road. She did not trust Charles, but she never believed he would react this fast or this aggressively. She reached her apartment building in downtown Los Angeles. She parked in the underground garage, grabbed her folder of documents, and headed for the elevator. As the elevator rose, she took deep breaths, trying to push away the stress. But when she stepped into her apartment, she froze. Her living room window was slightly open. Ava had not opened it. She scanned the room quickly. Nothing seemed damaged. Nothing seemed stolen. But something felt off. Something was wrong. She walked toward the window carefully. On the table beside it lay a single white business card. No logo, no name. Only one handwritten sentence. Walk away from this fight. Ava's breath caught. She checked the door. It was still locked. Someone had gotten inside without forcing anything. She grabbed her phone immediately. She needed help. She needed someone she could trust. She dialed the one person who always spoke straight. Marcus Ward, former military. Security consultant. Childhood friend. He answered on the second ring. Ava, why are you calling this late? Her voice shook with controlled tension. Marcus, I need you here now. Marcus did not waste time. I am on my way. Ava stood by the window, holding the card between her fingers. This was no longer a prank or a bad party trick. Someone had crossed a line, and the night was only getting darker. 25 minutes later, Ava heard a low knock at her door. 3 short taps, the signal Marcus always used. She opened the door, and Marcus stepped in quickly, scanning the hallway before closing it behind him. He was in his late 30s, tall, with a strong build and a calm seriousness in his eyes. He had seen enough danger in his life to recognize it instantly. He looked at her soaked hair and damp clothes. What happened to you? Ava handed him the card without speaking. He read it, frowned, then looked around the apartment with sharp attention. Someone was inside here. Ava nodded. The window was open when I got home. Marcus placed the card on the table and checked every room, every corner, every lock. Then he returned to her with his jaw tight. No sign of forced entry. This was professional. Someone picked the lock or had access. Ava sat on the couch. It started at the dinner party. Charles shoved me into the pool in front of everyone. When I told him the deal was canceled, he got angry. And now this. Marcus sat across from her. The card is not from Charles. This is different, cleaner, more calculated. Ava raised her brows. So someone else is involved. Marcus nodded slowly. Or someone working for him. Ava leaned back, rubbing her temples. Marcus, what should I do? Marcus spoke firmly. First, you stay cautious. No traveling alone. No unplanned meetings. You do not go anywhere without telling me. Ava exhaled. Are you saying I am in danger? Marcus did not rush his answer. I am saying someone went through the trouble of entering your home quietly and leaving a warning. That is not done for fun. That is done to send a message. Ava felt a wave of fear she kept hidden under her anger. She had always believed in logic and control. But tonight felt like stepping into a world where rules had changed. Marcus continued. Do you have any enemies besides Charles? Ava shook her head. Not that I know of. I built my company from scratch. I compete with people, but I do not make enemies. Marcus tapped the card. Someone wants you silent. The question is why? Ava took a deep breath. Marcus, I am not backing down. I am not letting fear control me. The contract is canceled and I will announce it tomorrow. Marcus stared at her. If you do that, the pressure will rise. Be ready. Ava met his eyes with steady determination. I have been through worse. I will not let them intimidate me. Marcus nodded once. Then I will stay with you tonight. Ava felt a small wave of relief. Thank you. Marcus stood and quietly checked all the locks again. He turned off the lights except for one lamp, creating a soft dim in the room. The city outside continued buzzing, but inside her apartment everything felt tense and still. Ava sat on the couch holding her folder of documents. She clutched it tightly. Those papers were more than a business deal. They were the key to everything she had built. Marcus sat near the door, alert and quiet. Ava stared at the business card again. Walk away from this fight, she whispered to herself. No, I'm not walking away. But she had no idea how deep this fight would go. And she did not yet know that the next person connected to the deal was already being watched. The storm had begun, and the real danger was on its way. Morning sunlight barely entered Ava's apartment. She had not slept much. Marcus had stayed awake most of the night, listening for any sound outside the door. When Ava walked into the living room, he was already standing near the window. He spoke without turning. We have a problem. Ava stepped closer. What happened? Marcus handed her his tablet. A news headline was displayed across the screen. Novalink systems under review after leaked internal documents raise questions. Ava's heart dropped. This is false. None of this is real. Marcus nodded. Someone leaked fake files. Someone wants your company to look unstable. Ava felt her pulse racing. This is coordinated. They want to pressure me before I announce the deal cancellation. Marcus sighed. And they are doing it well. Ava sat down, rubbing her forehead. She knew her company was clean. Her systems were secure. But someone with serious skill had forged data and pushed it into the media overnight. She stood up fast. I need to check the servers myself. Marcus blocked her path. No, you are not going alone. Whoever broke into your home might be tracking your movement. Ava grabbed her laptop bag. Then you are coming with me. Marcus followed her down the hallway, staying alert. They reached the underground garage, got into Ava's SUV, and drove to the Novalink headquarters. The building stood tall in downtown LA, but today it looked different. Reporters already stood outside trying to get statements. Ava put on sunglasses and moved through the side entrance. Inside the security office, she met with her technical team. Devin, her lead engineer, looked stressed. Ava spoke sharply. Tell me everything. Devin swallowed nervously. Someone breached our cloud mirror server. Not the main system. The mirror only holds backups. But the intruder replaced some documents with fake versions. It looks like internal corruption. Ava leaned in. Can you trace the source? Devin hesitated. We tried. Whoever did this used a triple-layered proxy chain. Even our tools cannot break it. Marcus spoke from behind her. So this is not a random hacker. Devin nodded. No, this is someone with government-level skill. Ava felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. Someone wanted this leak to happen before I pulled the deal. Marcus spoke quietly. This was meant to hit your company reputation and force you into silence. Ava looked around the room at her team. Lock down everything? No outgoing emails. No external access. Secure every server. I want a full investigation. Devin nodded and ran back to his station. Marcus leaned closer to her. Ava, this is bigger than Charles. A billionaire does not hire this level of hacker for a tantrum. Ava whispered. Then who is involved? Marcus shook his head slowly. We need to find out, fast. As they walked out of the server room, Ava's phone buzzed again. A message appeared from another unknown number. Turn back before this destroys everything you built. Ava stared at the message, her jaw tightening. She whispered to herself, I am not afraid of whoever you are. But the person watching her was already several steps ahead. Later that night, Ava returned home with Marcus. Her apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Marcus walked in first, checking each room with a flashlight even though the lights turned on easily. Everything looked untouched. Ava sat on the couch, exhausted but wired with adrenaline. Marcus, whoever is doing this knows exactly how to apply pressure. First humiliation, then threats, then fake leaks. What is next? Marcus lowered himself into a chair. Someone wants you out of the deal market. Someone wants Novalink slowed down or destroyed. Ava looked at the city skyline from her window. Novalink handles international communication filters. If my launch succeeds, older systems will be useless. Marcus nodded. So maybe another company sees you as a threat, a competitor with deep pockets. Ava stared at him. A competitor willing to hire a team of professionals to break laws. Marcus answered calmly. Yes, for $2 billion, people do worse. Before Ava could respond, the hallway outside her apartment made a soft sound. A slow footstep. Then another. Marcus lifted his hand, signaling Ava to stay silent. He stood up, grabbed the metal flashlight, and moved toward the door with controlled steps. Another soft sound outside, something brushing the wall. Marcus slowly approached the peephole and looked through it. His expression sharpened. Someone is standing outside. Not moving, Ava whispered. Who is it? Marcus spoke in a low voice. A man in a black suit. No expression. He is holding a small envelope. Ava's chest tightened. Is he trying to deliver something? Marcus kept watching. No, he is scanning the hallway. Like he is checking if someone else is watching him. Ava swallowed hard. What do we do? Marcus whispered. Do nothing until he moves. A tense minute passed. Then the man slowly bent down and slid the envelope under the door. He did not knock. He did not speak. He just walked away. Marcus waited until the footsteps disappeared. Then opened the door a crack, checked the hallway, and pulled the envelope inside. Ava stood up nervous but curious. What is inside? Marcus opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a single photograph. Ava gasped softly. It was a picture of her leaving the Novalink headquarters earlier that day. But the angle was strange. Someone photographed her from a rooftop across the street. Under the image, a short message was printed. You are being watched. Ava felt her hands grow cold. This is not just intimidation. This is surveillance. Marcus looked at her with serious eyes. This is now a security threat at the highest level. Ava, whoever is behind this is powerful, organized, and close. Ava took a shaky breath. Marcus, why are they doing all this for a deal that I ended? Marcus stepped closer. Maybe the deal was not the real reason. Ava stared at him, confusion and fear mixing inside her. Then what is? Marcus answered quietly. That is what we need to find out before they make their next move. Ava looked at the photograph again. Her face, her steps, her life captured by someone she had never seen. She whispered with rising fear. Marcus, if this is not about the contract, then what did I step into? And for the first time since everything began, Marcus did not have an answer. Ava reached the small conference room on the far side of the mansion. It was quiet, away from the noise of the party. The lights were dim and the large table in the center was empty except for a single folder placed neatly on top. She took a careful breath and opened the folder. Inside were updated contract, pages with marks and changes, different from the ones she approved earlier. Entire sections on technology control, profit share, and data ownership had been rewritten. The new version tried to give Charles complete authority over Novalink. It even attempted to remove Ava from future leadership decisions. Her jaw tightened. Charles had planned this all along. The party, the guests, the forced attention, the push into the pool. He wanted to shake her, confidence and trap her into signing, something she would never agree to if she was thinking clearly. A soft sound came from behind her. She turned sharply. Charles stood in the doorway holding a drink, his expression unreadable. So, you finally saw it, he said. Ava closed the folder slowly. You changed the entire contract, without notice. Charles walked inside the room, his steps slow and controlled. I made it better, for both of us. This gives you ownership of my company, Ava said. It gives us ownership, Charles replied. Your company is powerful. Ava, I want to make sure it grows under the right direction. She stared at him. You tried to humiliate me tonight. You tried to push me into a corner so that I would sign whatever you placed in front of me. Charles smiled slightly. Pressure reveals true decision-making. And you are too soft. That is why you need someone like me to take over. Ava stepped back from the table. You do not control me, and you do not get my company. Charles shrugged. Then you walk away from $2 billion and everything you built collapses in competition next year. Think carefully. Ava looked directly into his eyes. I already did. She walked past him and out of the room. But she did not leave the mansion yet. She still needed proof. Tonight was not over. Ava moved quietly through the hallway. Earlier, she had noticed small security cameras placed around the pool area. If she could reach the control room, she could check the recordings and see how the pool incident happened. If Charles pushed her intentionally, there had to be video of it. She found the control room near the back of the mansion. The door was unlocked. Inside were multiple screens, some showing live footage, others showing folders of saved recordings. Ava sat at the desk and searched for the pool camera. Then she froze. As the footage played, she saw herself standing at the edge of the pool. She saw Charles approaching with the same fake friendly smile. She saw his hand move forward. But then something shocking happened. The video suddenly cut and skipped to a different angle. It was edited, not by the system, by a person. Ava pressed her lips tightly. Charles wanted to remove proof. He knew exactly what he was doing. Under another camera tag, she saw additional saved files. She opened them. These were from hours before the party. Charles was talking to one of his assistants inside the pool house. Lower her confidence. Distract her. Make her sign after the party. I want this done before midnight. Ava leaned closer. This was enough. Not for media, not for police, but enough for her company board, enough for her legal team, and enough to destroy the deal permanently. Suddenly, the door behind her clicked. Ava turned. Charles stood there, his expression cold. You should not have entered this room, he said. Ava stood up slowly. And you should not have recorded your own intentions. Charles stepped forward. Delete that footage. No, Ava said. Charles moved closer. But Ava pulled the USB drive she had been copying the files to. She held it tightly in her hand. This ends tonight, she said. With steady steps, she pushed past him and walked out, leaving him standing in silence. Ava exited the mansion through the back path that led toward the driveway. The night air was cool and steady. Her clothes were still slightly damp, but her mind had never been clearer. The security lights lit up the path as her SUV driver stood by the door. Charles hurried after her, calling her name, but she did not stop. He finally reached her as she opened the car door. Ava, wait, we can fix the contract. We can renegotiate. Do not walk away from this. Ava faced him calmly. You pushed me into the pool. You tried to embarrass me in front of your guests. You tried to manipulate the contract. And you tried to hide evidence. There is no deal left to save. That was a misunderstanding, he said quickly. No, she replied. That was a decision. And now I am making mine. Ava looked at him one last time. The partnership is canceled. My company will never work with you again. Charles took a step back, shock finally settling on his face. Ava entered the SUV and closed the door. The engine started. As they pulled away, she looked down at the USB drive in her hand. It was more than proof. It was closure. She leaned back, steady and calm. Tomorrow she would meet her board. Tomorrow she would protect her company. Tomorrow she would move forward without fear. The mansion lights faded behind her as the SUV drove down the hill. For the first time that night, Ava allowed herself a small, confident smile. She had walked away from $2 billion, but she had kept something far more valuable, her power, her principles, her future. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe for more true and untold stories, where pain turns into power and truth always finds its way.